Good morning. Uh, I was just looking at my tags, and Fresno is a little small here compared to some of the other things. But I think it's small in many people's consciousness as well, even in California. So it's nice to be here. Uh, I want to give you a quick overview of the Fresno bird count, which started more from somewhat selfish reasons on my part. I'm a faculty member in a CSU campus, which is very teaching heavy, but trying to maintain a research program. So I came at citizen science as a way to help me, maintain an active research program, and also because I'm interested in questions of urban ecology, and so I'm an urban ecologist trying to understand cities as ecosystems with coupled social and ecological dynamics. So that's kind of the broad perspective of where I came from at this project. And the Fresno bird count started, well, I'll tell you in a minute. So this is a Google Earth view of Fresno. This is the fifth largest urban area in California, the Fresno Clovis, sort of two cities together. And the way starting with the academic motivations, one of my goals was to sort of set up a monitoring program for birds that would give us some basic information on distribution and abundance of bird species across the city, with the goal of potentially continuing in the long term so we can see changes as the city grows. Of course, with the real estate crash, the city's growth has stopped a little bit, but that's brought in some interesting changes in the urban system. So I'm hoping to unravel some of those. With that in mind, the study design was influenced by the Tucson bird count, which is another longer-term urban bird monitoring project, and uses a somewhat more rigorous sampling protocol. So what you're looking at here is our sampling grid, which is basically a 1 square kilometer grid laid across Fresno and Clovis. And within each square kilometer, one point is chosen randomly. So there's 460 points you're looking at here. So the basic sampling protocol then is a point count. So volunteers pick routes which may include 7 or 8 points that they can go and conduct counts at in a morning. And it's been mostly a spring count. So our next count actually starts next week for the 2011 year. But we've also recently added a winter count. So it's sort of, the project is growing and we're getting some interesting patterns here. So that's just a brief background. This is a cleaner map showing you both Fresno and Clovis and where we are with respect to the rest of California there. So we have a total of 460 points. Obviously, we don't have enough volunteers to cover all of them, but we've generally managed to hit about half the points in any given sampling year. About 30 to 40 volunteers, and this is a map from 2008 when we first started. And some of the initial results from this have actually contributed to a master's thesis from one of my graduate students. In terms of involvement of volunteers here, this is one of the things that Rick asked me to talk about, and I was just thinking about this last night. We've had volunteers recruited mainly through Fresno Audubon, local sort of birding community, as well as people on campus. So, students from my classes, for example, in ornithology, and so on. So it's a group of volunteers that's slowly growing, but it's still a bit slow. So we have a variety of reasons why the volunteers are participating in this, right? So general interest in birds, concern for local issues, especially water. Water is a big issue in the Central Valley in general, with conflicts over agriculture versus conservation and so on. The urban sort of fits in as a stakeholder in that as well. And Fresno is interesting because it's one of the few cities that doesn't have water meters. And under federal mandate, Fresno is installing water meters now. So that actually provides us with an opportunity to do an experiment sort of to see what the patterns of bird distribution and other biodiversity indicators are before metering and after metering, because right now, up until now, there's just a flat rate and there's no real constraint on how much water people use because it's not very expensive. we haven't really done any systematic evaluation of what the people are, or the volunteers are getting out of this. But in terms of, the way my thinking has evolved on this, in general, it's trying to get people out and appreciate the nature and birds in the community, which is surprisingly not, well, maybe not that surprisingly, but it's not that common in the area. I mean, even though we have an Audubon chapter and we're located to some major national parks, a lot of our students don't really go out and experience even those national parks that are nearby, which attract people from all over the world. So I've been trying to get more activities happen, also trying to engage with local schools to see if we can get some schoolyard ecology kind of projects happening as well. But in general, some of the results we've got are catching attention, especially when we are tying in with these issues of urban water management and water policy and the impending changes with metering. So I just want to quickly show you some results we've had. We are looking at distribution of bird species richness across Fresno and Clovis, and this is based on one sample. So as you can see, all the points were not covered, but it's a pretty good sample size and pretty robust for statistical analysis. And one of the things we've looked at is the connection between between socioeconomic drivers, income especially, irrigation practices in the residential landscape, and how that influences plant and bird diversity. So this was work done by my graduate student, Brad Schlater, and basically looking to see how this pathway of interactions occurs. And the bird data come from the Citizen Science Project. The other data were gathered by the students. And without showing you the statistical results, I just want to indicate that we found a strong connection between neighborhood poverty levels and bird diversity, apparently working through irrigation and landscaping practices. Not that surprising if you think about it, but I think it comes as a surprise to many people when you tell them that richer neighborhoods actually have more birds as well. And this has led to our expanding projects now. We have an NSF grant which is looking at the socio-ecological system in greater detail.